SUPERVIVE just released to open beta and is a ton of fun to play. However, it can be quite difficult to pick up from all of the different choices you have at your disposal. So let's cover everything from the basic mechanics and characters of the game, leading to the end where we will go all the way into a rundown of what you can expect in your average game of SUPERVIVE. SUPERVIVE is primarily a top-down battle royale game that is claimed to be League meets Apex meets Smash, but innovates on all three of these in such a way that creates a unique gameplay loop that is extremely satisfying. There are also other modes like duos and team versus team arena modes, but we are going to focus on the main mode, Squad Battle Royale. Currently, at the time of creating this video, 10 teams of 4 drop around the map to level up, get items and powers to get strong, and compete to the death until there is only one team left standing. The game starts with selecting your character. There are a couple of roles to choose from within SUPERVIVE: fighters, protectors, initiators, frontliners, and controllers. Let's start by breaking down the fighter role. Fighters tend to be your typical damage characters that really excel at finding kills within fights. However, it is the largest role, so it has quite a bit of disparity in how each character feels to play. For example, the same role holds both Brawl, a close-ranged slice and dice kind of character, and Shrike, a character with a sniper that wants to stay as far away from the fight as possible. The best thing you can do as a beginner is try every character and get a feel for them to see who you like best. And it doesn't go for just fighters, that goes for everyone. Initiators are the second role that currently holds Bishop and Kingpin. These characters oftentimes start the fight with key abilities like Bishop's Punch or Kingpin's Hook that create opportunities to find picks. They aren't quite frontliners because they aren't great tanky bullet sponges, but they do still create opportunities for your team. So let's talk about frontliners next to make this distinction a little bit more clear. Frontliners like to get in there and cause chaos in the fight while creating advantageous space for your team to fight in. Felix the Firefox does this by flame jetpacking in and fire wheeling to create tons of damage over time, and also providing himself a big shield of health to stay in for longer. Oath does this by stunning his enemies into walls and blocking off key cooldowns in the fight. They still create opportunities for their team, but it's a lot more about creating time and space rather than just one key cooldown. The next role we will go over is the Protector role. This is the role that I have the most experience on in the game and only holds 2 characters currently. Notice that I don't call this the healer role though. They are called protectors for a reason. Much like a support in other games, this role does have healing capabilities, but what really makes the role shine is the utility each of the characters supply to their teams. For example, Zeph has a tornado dash that launches teammates around the map, and Aluna has the ability to pick up dead teammates and res them on the go. As you can see, the main role of a protector is to amplify their team's value while keeping their team safe while doing so. Last but certainly not least, we have controllers. These characters excel at holding and contesting space around the map, which is essential to winning at the higher levels of SUPERVIVE. They tend to have ultimates that teams are forced to respect, like Celeste's Ice Blast that freezes enemies within it after a short time, and Void's Black Hole that pulls people in, stunning them. It is really important that a player understands the big picture of SUPERVIVE in order to excel at this role, which is why I consider it to be a bit more difficult compared to the others. As I have said though, the biggest tip I can give people just starting out is to try every role and every hunter to see what you like best. I find that games are more fun and easier to get better at if you play what you like rather than what you think you are good at, as you'll be more motivated to improve and play if you were enjoying yourself. If I had to give you a set of characters to begin on though for each role, I would try Ghost, Kingpin, Felix, Aluna, and Celeste. Let's now get into the basics of each hunter, and then the resources all of the hunters have at their disposals. Each character in SUPERVIVE moves via the WASD keys on your keyboard and uses their primary weapon with the left click. Crouching increases the amount you can see on the map while slowing you down, and jumping can get you to most high grounds. If you decide to jump and then hold down your spacebar by default, your character will glide at a slightly faster speed, aiding you in running away and traversing the abyss. Be careful though. If you do get hit while gliding, you will be sent downwards, either stunning you to the ground or spiking you and killing you into the abyss. I tell you this, but I know that you are all just gonna have to learn this the hard way, just like the rest of us when we were just starting out. Transitioning into stats, even though every character belongs to a role, that doesn't define them as a character. The great part about SUPERVIVE is that there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of differentiation in how you can play based on the situation. More on that later. For starters, every character has a different amount of base health that is not standardized. Characters like Kingpin have a lot more health than characters like Aluna at a base level, and if you run out of health, you get knocked out to a Wisp form where you can get revived by a teammate or full killed by an enemy. Pretty simple. Every character also has a set amount of mana that allows them to use their abilities. If your mana depletes to 0, you will not be able to use any of your abilities. Your mana does regenerate through time, but can also be regenerated through consumables on the ground, like Vive Brew, for example. Something to note is that some characters can actually regenerate mana by hitting their primary shots, so make sure you read what your hunter does before you play. Moving on, now we have armor. Just as with other battle royales, this is a really important system to understand. However, it doesn't work like other battle royales you may be used to. Instead of giving you just flat health straight out, it gives you a reduction to incoming damage based on the rarity that you have. Now, the amount of reduction that your armor gives you does change via each patch, but the current patch numbers are on the screen now. The main takeaway I want you to get from this is that you do not want to sleep on getting armor every game. It is super important and will keep you alive for longer. The other thing is that your armor can break, but you can fix it by picking up repairs on the ground that look like this, chilling at the forge, or fixing it up at campfires. Again, more on that later. The next important system to understand is the game's items system. Each hunter has an armor slot like we talked about just recently, 2 item slots, and then a boots slot. Items come in 2 types, helmets and blades, that have a few different categories, including tech, mana, vampiric, and bladed or quick. Tech items give your character cooldown reduction across the board. Mana items are the simplest because they just give your character more mana and more passive mana regeneration. Vampiric items give you lifesteal, and bladed or quick items give you more movement speed. However, the first adjective only tells part of the story. If the gear is a helmet, it gives you a boost to your health. If the gear is a blade, it gives you a boost to your damage output. You can get these items by defeating mob camps around the map that drop scrap shards that upgrade your basic items to specific items you choose each game upon an upgrade. Look, I know it's confusing now, but after you play a bit, it will start to make a whole lot of sense. You might be wondering, what is the best setup to use though? I don't have an answer for you. It comes down to your team composition and what character you are playing, and just so much more. That is what makes this game so fun though, because one character can fill multiple roles depending on the situation. Just make sure that you ask yourself what your character is trying to achieve and pick items that are going to make your job easier to do so once you learn what the answer to your questions are. One last thing, items can have one of 7 different rarities in this order: gray, white, green, blue, purple, orange, and red. When an item hits blue rarity, you can choose one of 3 possible perk routes based on the specific item it is. This system can get pretty darn confusing, and I will be covering it in the items guide I plan on releasing over the next few days. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. But if you hate this content and you can't possibly force yourself to watch another one of my videos, just read the Learn tab in the main menu. You can read up on everything there. Alright, moving on, everyone spawns with a backpack that can hold 3 consumable items outside of your Vive Brew. There are a ton of items you can pick up around the map, but the most vital ones to your success include Vive Beans, Hyper Vive, jump pads, and scan grenades. Vive is vital to understand in order to succeed in SUPERVIVE. Consuming Vive regenerates health and mana, and each player can hold 3. However, Vive drops as Vive Beans that can be brewed at campfires to amplify the effects of the Vive Bean, creating a Vive Brew. This resource drops from killing mobs around the map and can also be bought at several shop locations. Hyper Vive takes longer to consume, is more rare than Vive Beans, and fully regenerates your health and mana. Jump pads launch the player into the air, allowing them to fly around and rotate over terrain, which is super helpful at the end of the game. And scan grenades can be used to generate vision for your teammates in a radius around where they are placed. They are great to throw around when you are contesting objectives like bosses around the map to keep your team safe with information. These are just the basic consumables in the game, and there are so many more that you should be picking up, but these are the essentials that you should be looking out for every single game you play. Last but certainly not least, amongst the tools every character shares are the powers you can pick up around the map. These can be found in a ton of different locations, most notably at vaults, and really change up the game depending on what you can find. As a beginner, I would not worry about these too much until you really get the basics down. When you have the time, try looking through some of them and learn what they do in the practice range. Specific powers are really good at amplifying strengths of specific hunters, while others are good at diminishing weaknesses. Pick different ones up and learn which ones you like. Just like the item system, I will have a video covering this topic really soon. But if you hate this content still, you can also just read about the powers in the codex as well as you would for the items. All right, let's take a deep breath. We just discussed what every single hunter in SUPERVIVE has in common. Let's review what that includes. Their classification, health, mana, armor, items, consumables, and powers. That in and of itself is a lot of information. But stick with me now. Let's talk about the really fun stuff, abilities. Every character has a primary attack along with a dash, 2 abilities, and an ultimate ability. The dash range and effect varies depending on the character, but it is important to note that everyone has one of these as they are pivotal to moving around the map efficiently and effectively. However, you do not spawn in with all of your abilities on default. Similar to League, at level 1, you spawn in with your primary attack and 1 ability of your choice. For example, on Oath at level 1, I have my primary weapon, the hammer, and then either my dash, heal, or shield based on what I choose to take. Then at level 2, I get to pick another that is not unlocked until I get all of my basic abilities at level 3. At level 5, you unlock access to your character's ultimate. Then after that, it is up to you to choose how you want to upgrade each of your abilities throughout the game. Each upgrade increases damage and reduces cooldown times, among other things. You might be wondering though, how does a player level up? A player levels up by killing either mobs or players. However, farming mobs only goes so far. Every circle cycle, a level cap is enforced that keeps players at a set level. The only way to push that level cap is by killing other players. So a common strategy is to rush getting level 4 by killing mobs on the first day, since that is the first day's level cap, then finding a team and killing them to get level 5, unlocking your ultimate ability, and going from there. So now that we have talked about everything that goes into you, the player, let's now talk about the map of SUPERVIVE. Let's start by highlighting the important things to look out for. There are a slew of different named locations around the map that all hold campfires and creeps within them. Campfires, or base camps, are important to capture as they allow your team to have vision in a wide area, revive to give increased benefits, repair your armor for gold, and also recall back to by pressing B or whatever your keybind is set to by default. You can pick up a captured bonfire and put it in your inventory for 5,000 gold, which is really powerful as it allows you to place it to a new location later in the game when the circle gets really small and there's a lot of teams. You can only have 1 campfire at a time, so make sure you have one ready to go and place it as well. Creeps are represented around the map by big purple dots. These are important to kill each day as they give you XP up to the day's level cap. You typically want to kill creeps before you go to kill new players as they drop item shards and consumables as well, which you'll definitely want before you go off and run to fight. Let's zoom out, however, and get a better understanding of how the map works as a whole. Each game will have a storm shift that makes the game different every time you drop. These influence the game in interesting ways, but are not the most important to pay attention to when you're first starting out. Just recognize that they exist. Locations that will be used every game you play include res beacons though. These beacons have the ability to resurrect your entire team once the charge is finished. That's right, you don't need to pick up anything off of death boxes. You just have to find a working beacon and finish the res charge time. Be careful though, because when you step on these, they alert the entire lobby of your position, and it is very common for teams to chase you down once they get alerted of your presence on a beacon because they know you're weak. That being said, sometimes beacons are broken and can be repaired for 2,500 gold. Others that are red cannot be used by you anymore since you already used them once. And there are some beacons that never go away in specific locations, like the heart and in Kobayashi's. Because resurrecting your team is so easy in this game, taking fights to get an advantage is more powerful now than ever before in battle royales, especially in casual games. Another part of the map you'll want to look out for are the various vaults around the map. Every vault will have a set of powers to pick up behind a locked door. However, specialty vaults will have better loot behind them. Blue vaults hold 2 guaranteed blue armors behind them, while orange hot zone vaults hold at least 1 guaranteed orange armor behind them. More on that soon. The abyssal vault holds a guaranteed abyssal power behind its doors, which is super strong. Powers are incredible, and vaults are a must open in order to win games. Shops are also scattered around the map that sell Vive beans and brew, amongst other consumables, blue and green armor, as well as other items depending on the location. These can be super helpful to get back into the game if you have a slow start. No battle royale is complete without hot zones. Hot zones are orange and contain an amount of orange armors in them, depending on how many of them there are on the map. If there is only one hot zone, there will be 4 armors in that zone. 2 hot zones holds 2, and 4 hot zones hold 1 each. These are good places to drop if you don't want to drop for another objective like the Abyssal Vault. Armors can also spawn on the train if the train is orange on the map at the start of the game. Speaking of the train, it runs clockwise around the map and will kill you if you get hit by it. There is a res beacon and a fire on it as well, so it is a decent way to get around the map if you can capture the fire and recall to it later. Now that we have talked about how the map works, let's talk about how the circle works. SUPERVIVE works in a day system where each day the circle closes. Each day has a level cap that can be reached by killing creeps around the map. The most common way you can surpass the level cap is by killing other players. Each day has the following level cap. Day 1 has a level cap of levels 1 to 4, Day 2 has a level cap of levels 5 to 6, Day 3 has a level cap of 7, and Day 4 has a level cap of 8. Recognize that on Day 1 the level cap is set to 4, so most teams will not have ultimates unless they eliminate other teams to get level 5. This is an incentive to fight teams early. Something important to mention is that starting on night 1, powerful bosses will spawn that give you souls or other powerful items to your team that drastically change the game. You will want to try and kill these bosses if possible, but know that they will not be quiet and you will likely have to kill a team for it. If you do manage to defeat an abyssal boss in Vein Grove or Prisma Falls, it will give your whole team level 5 if you are level 4. Alright, so far we have talked about a lot. We have gone over different hunters and their roles, their health, mana and cooldowns, consumables and armor, the map and the circle. While this summary might seem simple, there is a lot of depth that can be lost in translation. To alleviate stress, this is how I would approach each game as a beginner. Composition-wise, I would try to have 1 protector, 1 tankier character, and 2 others. It doesn't really matter all too much though, just prioritize having fun and finding your characters over anything. Next, fulfill these important objectives. Get level 4 on day 1, farm creeps and get your items of choice through picking up item shards, get armor at a shop or a vault, blue ideally, open vaults to get powers, and then, after this, fight teams and try to get level 5. If souls or night 1 bosses are good, fight for a soul or night 1 boss. Lastly, repeat every day to get max level and get better powers and armors to win the game. So there you have it. This guide does not cover all of the depth that SUPERVIVE has to offer, but these are things that you need to be aware of in order to really pop off as a player and enjoy the game. If you have any questions, ask away in the comments or join the Discord in the description. I'm an open book. I just want you guys to enjoy the game as much as I do. I hope to see you guys all around, but until next time, I've got to peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.